Hello, my name is Caden, and today we're going to be working on the rear shock absorbers on my 1990 Oldsmobile 98. So here we are with the wheel already off. That's going to be your first step. I have it jacked up below the control arm over here, and you're going to want to keep that jack on the control arm pretty much the whole entire time. And I'll explain some of that as well. So the way the shock absorber holds on, there's two nuts down here with bolts. It's bolts that go through. Now these bolts are not splined, so they will actually start to spin when you undo one side. And actually I'm going to put a little PB blaster on both of these here because they haven't come loose in 33 years, so I'm gonna get a little penetrating oil on them and get that in there. So next step, so what I like to do is I like to loosen it from the bottom first before I go to the top. So you will need a breaker bar, and these are 24 millimeter. Both sides of these are. So two 24 millimeter sockets are typically what you're going to use, and you could do either side here. I think I'm actually going to put the breaker bar on this side, and then we're going to at least just try to break it free. See if we can spin it at least first. Oh man, it is on there. All right, so if that side won't budge free first, go ahead and just move to the nut itself. I started lifting up on the control arm there. Damn. All right, so let me let these soak for a minute and then we'll break them free. So something I did that made this a lot easier to break loose is if you get a ratchet on one of these. On this side, on the passenger side, this will work. On the driver's side, I guess it still can. You just have less of the drum on this side of the strut, or you have more of it on this side towards the rear than you do on the front. So now I can just, yeah, I broke both of these loose now. So either or doesn't matter, but either way you still want a backup wrench, otherwise it'll spin. And just keep working these until you get them loose. There we go. And like I said, you want to make sure your jack is under the control arm, because when you get these bolts out of the steering knuckle here, it's going to want to drop. And then if it drops too much, the spring is going to fall out, and we're keeping these springs, so we don't want the spring to fall out. So we're going to keep tension on this the whole time, and just keep working these back and forth and breaking them loose. An impact would obviously be better. Mine broke, unfortunately, so I got to do this all by hand. If you're really struggling, or if your car has a lot of rust, get a torch. Even if you just have to start with a small butane torch, heat it up real hot, and then take a crack at breaking it loose. But otherwise, let it sit in some penetrating oil for a while, and I'm probably going to need some more, or just take a break because my arms are getting really tired. But so we'll work on that, and then we'll move up into the trunk where there's two nuts on the top to hold it to the body. And then there's actually one thing up here I gotta show y'all, and this is specifically for the vehicles with the rear air ride suspension, like my Olds 98, Buick Park Avenue, Bonneville SSE, and multiple others like the Cadillacs. You just gotta pry this clip off a little bit, or just loosen it, and then you can sometimes you need a screwdriver. But get this clip off. I'll probably edit some of this down. There we go. Never mind. So we got that off, and here's what the clip looks like. It just kind of wraps around, and there's little slots. Now I find it easier to actually put the clip, I'll put the clip back on before we press it onto the new one, and these just click on. They're super easy. So that's one thing out of the way, and like I said, reuse the clip unless you get new ones in your kit, but for now I gotta reuse it. So actually, let's go up to the top. All right, back in my hands. So coming up under into the trunk, our strut mount is kind of buried back there. So to get that, we have to pull these two little plastic pieces off. You just twist them off, and we'll pull this. This is the speaker cover. You got to pull this out and to the left. On the driver's side, it's different, but and these, yeah, these can be a little tricky. They're just more like harder to reach, but you just work on twisting these off, and this pulls out pretty easy. Watch your speaker wire though, because there is some wires behind there for the speaker, and then I'll show you what that looks like here once I get that out of the way. All right, so that's what it looks like with the that little cover off, and as you can see, you can already see one of them. So there's one here, and there's one that's back behind here. I'm touching it with this other finger here. These are both 13 millimeter, and I prefer to use one of these ratcheting wrenches. Oops. You're gonna have to worry about the magnetism on that speaker, but just loosen them up, and then the strut will want to drop down, but and that's why we're going to keep this on the control arm so it does not just fall out. We're going to keep pressure on it, so then we're going to lower it slowly a few inches so we can get it out. And these shocks are so worn, as yours will be too if you're replacing them out, that you'll be able to compress them by hand to make them shorter, and then be able to fit it out from the steering knuckle over there. And that's basically it as far as removal goes. Putting them back in is the hard part if you do not have help. I do this all solo, so I have no help, and the hardest part's going to be getting these started, the new ones started, whilst holding that strut up, because you're still gonna have a little gap. The control arm spring will only compress so much before it starts lifting the vehicle itself up again. So just something to note. We're gonna keep going, and I'll show you what the old one looks like. So now that we got this out here, we just want to compress it with our hands a little bit and finagle it. But however, if you're still struggling, what you want to do, you're going to come over and you're just going to loosen the jack a little bit until it falls a few inches like so. And then you can actually come over here, compress it down a little more, and you can wiggle the whole strut assembly out. And that's at least how we remove it. Now we just got to do some cleanup. So here's the old one on the ground. These are, as far as I know, original. The car doesn't have a whole lot of miles, but I mean, they bounce way too much. Those are going bye-bye, and we've got a new one over here. But first we're going to clean some stuff up, like this steering knuckle here. What you want to do is you want to wire brush the insides of these and kind of the mating surfaces here on both sides, just to you know, make sure everything is you know, not going to seize up over time and make it a lot harder. So I wouldn't use anti-seize. I wouldn't even bother, because the bolts slide out easy enough. Now, something I should mention is that if yours don't come out easy right away, don't just beat on the end of it with a hammer. What you want to do is you might want to mess with the tension on the control arm, lowering the jack up and down, or even pulling back the steering knuckle to help get some of the tension off those bolts, and then lightly tap them out. These came out with my fingers by just pushing up on this a little and then using the other hand to just pull it out. But if you absolutely have to, just lightly tap on the end of these, or even spin this nut back over it until they're about flush here, and then hit it, and then get the bolts out that way, because we want to reuse these, or at least I'm going to, because they're fine. But yeah, we're going to clean up, and for putting the new one in, I highly recommend you get it, you're going to want to actually get it bolted in on the top first. So now, as hard as that sounds with one person, it is doable because I've done the other side already. You're going to come down here, you're going to use your right hand, you're going to hold up on that shock absorber, and you're going to lean into the trunk here with your other hand, and then thread one of the nuts on, you know, preferably the closer one. Spin it on, and then you can let go of it down here, and then the nut up here will just hold it, and you can tighten the nuts up here, and it will pull the shock up a little bit, and then you can mount it down here. And the new ones typically come a little bit compressed, so you might have to fight with it a little bit and just pull on it kind of hard to get it to extend a little more. But with no air in it, no air hose hooked up, it'll be easier as well to do that. So just something to note, and we're gonna go get this installed. All right, so here we have our new strut in. One thing we got to do, see how I put that clip on like that first, and then you can just go up, and it's a little bit of a tight fit, but it just clicks on just like that, and it stays on. So down below where this actually bolts on, now you don't see it now, but when you go to put on your new strut, do not freak out if there is a gap. You're gonna have some gaps here. Those will go away once you start actually tightening everything up. And yes, you want to tighten these down pretty tight. There is a torque spec for them. I think it's like 144 foot-pounds. If you don't have a torque wrench, just they will bottom out and stop turning, and once they do that, that's pretty much about where they need to be anyway. And then you just put the wheel back on, and that's it. That's all there really is to it. So I'm gonna put the wheel back on and lower the car down, put some of the stuff back in here together, and that'll be all. All right, now that we're all lowered down here, pretty much what you want to do, just look at your tires and the way they sit. They look pretty good for the most part, but however, I still highly recommend getting a wheel alignment done on all four wheels. I'm eventually going to do all four. I got to still replace the fronts, but for now I'm gonna yeah, leave it be. And you're gonna probably notice a little bit of an increase in the height of the body, and that's okay. That's just the stiffness of the new shocks. It'll actually ride better, so no worries there. Thank you guys all for watching, and I will see y'all next video. Hope this helped. Take care.